You're watching Shalom TV, celebrating Jewish culture. Funding for Shalom TV has been provided by the following. And by viewers like you.
I'm Mark Golub. I have an extraordinary opportunity to sit with one of the individuals who has done more in the last 20, 25 years to help shape the future of the Jewish state, the state of Israel, as anyone has. A native Israeli, a Sabra, born in Tel Aviv, studied at Tel Aviv University, and then entered the diplomatic corps and has a distinguished career of service in various roles with various governments, worked with the Sharon government, had a remarkable tenure here as Israel's ambassador to the United States, and he is now the Deputy Foreign Minister of the State of Israel. He is with the Yisrael Beiteinu Party, Avigdor Lieberman's party. His name is Dani Ayalon, and Dani, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
My pleasure, Mark. Good to see you.
And I want you to know, not only, we've met a number of times, not only are you one of the most creative individuals on the scene, you're also one of the loveliest, and so it's wonderful that I get a chance to sort of introduce you to the vast American audience now watching, but thank you for giving us a few moments.
Thank you, Mark. Always a pleasure.
Dani, I want to begin by asking you for your explanation, assessment, your feeling about Israel's decision not to extend the moratorium on building settlements, and we're talking about only building within the settlements that already exist. But why did Israel decide that on this past Sunday, as we're taping, September 26th, it would not extend the 10-month freeze on settlement building?
Well, for a few reasons. I would say the most obvious one was that the moratorium as such was on a term limit, 10 months.
Yes.
To give the Palestinians a chance to climb down all the trees and to enter negotiations with us without preconditions. And they said they needed a moratorium. We did this moratorium, which was unprecedented. You know, it's the first government who did it. It wasn't easy for us to do it.
In what sense not easy?
First of all, the moral sense. You know, you have over 300,000 Israelis who were sent there to Judea and Samaria, you know, the cradle of Jewish civilization, by successive Israeli governments. That's from right. Left and right.
That's right.
So all of a sudden you tell them, well, you have to shut up your life because of some kind of capricious behavior of the Palestinians, to single out just the settlement issue from all other issues, Jerusalem, refugees, security arrangements, borders, and everything else. Well, I think we went more than the extra mile towards Abu Mazen. Now, what did he do after we declared this moratorium? And he was supposed to join us to negotiations. He said, no, this is a disingenuous move by the Israelis. It's not serious. It's not a real moratorium. The same moratorium that now he says, we have to continue. Now, what did he do? For 9 months, he wasted 9 months out of this 10. And only now he says, you continue the same moratorium which he despised, just to continue negotiations. This is not a way for us to negotiate. This is being under the gun. This means that, I mean, if we were to capitulate again and extend the moratorium, that would compromise Israel's position throughout the negotiations. That would mean Israel has no red lines. Whatever we say can be changed. You can push and push and push.
All right. Two simple questions for you. Number one, American Jews tend to have the feeling that the moratorium was really imposed upon Israel by the United States. To what extent is that true or not true?
Well, you know, we have the greatest relations with the United States. We are natural allies for obvious reasons and history, and we will continue to be best of allies because of the interests, the challenges that we all have to work out together. there is a constant and very close consultations. So it wasn't an imposition. I cannot say it was an imposition. On the contrary, it was an understanding by Israeli government that this is a way to show the world that we are really serious about peace. And we hoped this would put this thing away and people will understand. But, you know, you give a finger, they want the entire hand. So I think that 10 months was more than enough. And the fact that we didn't make any progress in the last 10 months is not because of Israel. It's because the Palestinians refused to sit with us. Now they say, okay, we will sit with you, but extend the moratorium.
I want you to hear what some in the American Jewish community are saying, and they are very sympathetic to everything you've said. I don't know, you rarely come across now an American Jew who would argue against the substance of what you've said. The argument is somewhat different. What you will hear people say is the following. After 9 months, lo and behold, Mr. Netanyahu and Abu Mazen come to Washington, and a process does begin. And for the sake of that process, as a symbolic gesture, why didn't Israel say, since we have seen now progress over the last virtually month, maybe it would be nice as a symbolic statement to say, if these talks are ongoing, yes, we will extend the moratorium for a period of time, not because Jews think that the settlement issue is why there hasn't been peace, but because, as to use your word, as a gesture, it would be nice. And to the contrary, if Israel does not extend the moratorium, it gives those who want to just beat up on Israel an opportunity to say, you see, it was only done for a certain period of time, and they're not serious about peace. So for symbolic reasons and symbolic reasons only, why wasn't there enough of a reason for Israel to say, you know what, we're having progress in September, let's extend it through the end of the year or some other time?
We were ready, and we're still ready to do some kind of a compromise with the Palestinians. And what we're trying to tell them, it's not all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to be reasonable. We're not going to be provocative. We're not going to do things irresponsibly or do some projects which could be construed as provocative. However, we have our position which also has to be respected. And this gesture that you mentioned, Mark, was the gesture that we made for 10 months, for 10 whole months. And if we do not abide by this word, then our word is not worth anything. Not just to our own people at home, but internationally. If Israel can be pushed around, it will be a slippery slope, and it will not end just here with the settlement issue. It will be the same thing on our position in Jerusalem, and on security arrangements, and on borders, and on refugees, and many, many others. So I think if there is a serious intention by the international community to move forward, they should exert the same pressure they try to exert on us over on the Palestinians. And then if the Palestinians will say, well, you know what, we will give you 3 months now for genuine talks, and then we'll see in 3 months whether we demand more things or not. This is something which could be more logical after we did. I mean, we paid a serious down payment before we started negotiations. So after we made the first down payment, they want a second down payment without, you know, delivering anything. This is untenable from any point of view. And I'll tell you, Mark, the international scene is cruel. There is no, there is no real mercy for the weak, and there is no second chance, for people who are cannot sustain themselves. It's very cynical. It's very hypocritical, and they would push where they feel there is the blood, and we will not be in that position. And this is why we have to stand by our word, so our word will mean something, not just for us, but for the international community in the future as well.
Donnie, do you feel that in the last month there has been progress? It was when you say, we made this gesture, for 9 months they were not forthcoming. Has the 10th month indicated anything that gives you hope or some confidence that there is a real process now beginning?
Unfortunately, at this point, I do not see the light at the end of the tunnel. Or if I see the light, you know, it's the coming in train. But to be less facetious, there was one thing that we asked the Palestinians to recognize Israel as the homeland of the Jewish people. They refused. We asked them to do some accommodations about the settlements, you know, that we need to keep normal life of the people there.
Mm-hmm.
But they want a very, 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 very tough freeze that will not allow anybody to live there normally. They do not have even the decency to say that they will recognize Israel as the homeland for the Jewish people. And very cleverly, Abu Mazen says, what? Are you defining yourself by what we say? What do you care what we say? It's for you to. Well, so what the answer to Abu Mazen is, we don't define ourselves by you. We have the right for self-determination, just like you as the Palestinians. However, it's important that you will say that Israel is the Jewish state, not in Hebrew, to us, not in English, but in Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be a finality of conflict, the end of claims. Because this is the true meaning of end of claims. We don't want a settlement with the Palestinians whereby the children of the Palestinians are still taught that Haifa is theirs, that Tel Aviv is theirs, that Jaffa is theirs. This is what we mean by them recognizing Israel as a Jewish state.
Help me understand something better. You know, in America we have the two-party system. We don't have the coalition government system. Yisrael Beiteinu is basically the second largest party in the current coalition government. But in some way you are the loyal opposition within the coalition. I know personally, in terms of your own background, how you have fought for peace, how you were one of those who supported the withdrawal from Gaza. Were you supportive of Prime Minister Netanyahu now going to Washington at the beginning of September and beginning this process with the Palestinian Authority and Abu Mazen? Was there, in Danny Ayalon's opinion, enough evidence that the Palestinian Authority on the West Bank now is serious about making peace with Israel?
Well, we supported it. I think Yisrael Beiteinu is a very responsible party. As you mentioned rightly so, Mark, we are the second largest in the coalition. We are the third largest in the country, and we're growing all the time. It's not just a party like, you know, we had parties in the past that spiked and then disappeared. I mean, we have made a progress for the last 10, 12 years, from 4 seats in the House to 7 to 11 to 15, and I believe we are close to the 20 now if elections were held today. If you look at our portfolios and our positions in the government and our policies, is for the well-being of the entire country. We're not sectorial. We're not asking money for just this group or that group. Mm-hmm. We ask money for everybody, whether it's in homeland security, whether it's in tourism, whether it's in the economy. And our position has been very responsible. We were not sure, and until today I'm not sure where the Palestinians stand. And actually there are signs that they are not serious. But we wanted to give peace a chance. We supported the Prime Minister Netanyahu when he made his famous speech of two-state solution. We supported him for the moratorium. It wasn't very easy for us because we want the stability, we want the continuity of government. By the way, you rightly said that we have too many parties in our system. Yisrael Beiteinu, our party, believes, and one of the main agenda that we promote is an electoral reform, a political reform in Israel, which would be more similar to the American one. And with the presidential system, with the checks and balances, this is what we believe in. We are, in many ways, a very American-style party because we want a constitution like in the United States. We want a political system like the United States. We believe in Pledge of Allegiance by officials, just like in the United States, not any differently. Mm-hmm. We
It
believe
would
in.
revolutionize Israel.
I hope, yes, I think so. It would make a more predictability in the political system, and I think it will help the country to plan better for the future. If you have today a situation that in 63 years we had 32 governments, less than 2 years for each, what does that mean for long-term planning?
Or stability.
Or stability. So then you have problems with the education system or infrastructure. We need.
Okay. But come back. You were in favor
We were in. We
of the
supported,
peace talks.
even though until today we have our doubts. Now you ask me, why do we have our doubts about the Palestinians? I'll tell you why. At the same time as they talk about the need for peace, they do put obstacles like the settlement issue.
And forgive me, Donnie. I understand why you have doubts. What I don't quite understand is why you were willing to support the peace process despite all the doubts. What was the overriding decision, principle, which Avigdor Lieberman and yourself said, as much as we are worried, as many signs as there are about what the Palestinians have not done, we still believe the government should go forward in Washington for peace. What drove that?
I would say two main reasons. First of all, if we are wrong, we would be the first ones to admit and to be happy that we were wrong. You know,
In other words, if peace could be worked out.
if peace could work out, we would support it wholeheartedly. Of course, based on
Two-state solution.
Yes, it's our. You know, if you heard the foreign minister today, Avigdor Lieberman at the UN,
Yes.
talking about a two-state solution, and about the exchange of territories and population, you know, by redrawing borders.
Yes, he does not mean population transfer.
Not at all. Not at all. Actually, what he means is just gerrymandering.
Correct.
And with gerrymandering, I believe it will give us the stability whereby most Jews will live in the Jewish state, most Arabs in the Palestinian state, and we will avoid balkanization, we will avoid constant friction. So we believe in this two-state solution. We would like to see a change in the Palestinian attitude. We do believe that talking is better than not talking, that the process is good, and maybe we can find a creative way to move forward. We do believe that it's not all or nothing, that if we cannot reach a comprehensive peace, we should not just go all the way the other way, violence and whatever, but something in between could be long-term, some long-term interim settlement, whereby, because it's not a zero-sum game, Mark. It's a win-win. Israel needs security. They need their sovereignty or independence, and we can negotiate this also incrementally.
American Jews have been told all kinds of things about the Yisrael Beiteinu Party and Avigdor Lieberman. I read that he has said himself that if there were a peace settlement made, he lives on the West Bank now. If he had to, he would get up and leave the West Bank himself. Donnie, in terms of how you view the situation, if there could be peace, as remote as you may think that is at the moment, is it your sense that the vast majority of the 300,000 Israelis who live now on the West Bank in what's called settlements would in fact, in some peaceful way, leave the West Bank and come into whatever becomes Israel proper?
I'll tell you, Mark, if the government presents a settlement to the Israeli public whereby Israel's security needs are met and national interests are met, this can be done.
You would not expect civil unrest?
I will not expect it if the deal is right.
If the deal's not right, Israel won't do it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely not. And again, you have to look at the Palestinians. They continue with boycotting Israeli products. They continue with incitement, glorifying their shaheeds. Continue this culture, a culture of hate in their curriculum for kids, in their mosques and everywhere else. So you have to ask yourself how serious they are.
You will hear American Jews, especially those on the left, point to Avigdor Lieberman as a symbol of something that they feel is wrong with Israel. He has been labeled as a racist. He has been labeled as somebody who does want to put Arabs into trucks and bring them into Jordan. I wish you'd speak for a moment about what you think the truth is, or in any way correct some of the myths you've heard about your party and Avigdor Lieberman.
I'll tell you, I have known Avigdor Lieberman now for about 15 years. I have never, ever seen a better suited leader than him in terms of his vision, in terms of his pragmatism and can-do attitude, in terms of his political and administrative skills, and his understanding of history, his real understanding of history. In many ways, he reminds me of Prime Minister Sharon in his courage, in his wisdom. And given a chance to know him and to know his vision, people will be amazed to see how creative he is, thinking outside the box. And unfortunately, there is an unfair and unbalanced reports about him.
Does he want to take Palestinians and Arabs and put them on the
no way.
Dump them in Jordan?
No way, no way. He is talking about a two-state solution, which we talked about exchange or swapping of land and territories without moving anyone from their homes.
Donnie, as you look back, was Gaza a mistake for Israel to do unilaterally?
Yes, it was. It was, and I think we should learn from these mistakes for the future. And in hindsight, we shouldn't have done it. We shouldn't have done it because it was excruciatingly painful.
You were in favor of it at the time.
I was in favor of it because, I'll tell you why. Because we said, once we're out of Gaza, if there are Qassam rockets or terror coming out of Gaza, then we're going in full force take care of it. And this was also marked the intention of Ariel Sharon. Unfortunately, Ariel Sharon got ill, and his successors did not continue his policies and vision, which brought about Hamas and more terrorism from Gaza, and the situation that we have today. I believe that with Ariel Sharon, Hamas would not have taken over in Gaza, and if they had, they would have been taken care of. But we have a lesson now. We have a lesson that we cannot cede territory without a full agreement, without a full commitment of the other side, and with enforcement to make sure that no terrorism or no violence can come out of any territory that we will ever live in the future.
Donnie, can you imagine at some point an Abu Mazen agreeing to a Palestinian state that A, is demilitarized, and B, that does not require significant refugee return to Israel proper?
Well, if he doesn't, there's never going to be a deal.
And you're not worried that the United States, the European Union, the world community will in some way, especially the United States, force Israel into accepting a compromise situation which is not in Israel's interest? And Donnie, that's what you go to synagogues, that's what you hear people worrying about, that somehow the American government, for what they believe is good reasons, will in some way force Israel to accept a settlement that is not in Israel's interest. What would you say to these Jews?
Well, Mark, I have no doubt that there will not be an imposed settlement or an imposed solution, simply because it's not practical. It will never work. And secondly, I think that the friendship, the real true alliance, this natural alliance between Israel and the United States, which goes on all levels, of course, the political, but also people to people, economic and everything else, is not a type of relationship of impositions. So I don't think that anyone in the United States will think of compromising Israel's future. because at the end of the day, it's not Americans' interest, and we are just there in the front line, in the trenches, for all Western civilization.
Dani Ayalon, I'm a real fan of yours. You're lovely, you're bright, you represent both the State of Israel and the Jewish people with such grace and intelligence. Toda Rabba, thank you. Kol tuv v'hatzlacha, and all the work you do. And thank you. And sometime we'll have a longer time to talk together.
Thank you, Mark. Anytime.
I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you very much. Of course, as always, we'd love to hear any reactions you have to the ideas expressed by Dani. And if you want to be in touch with him by email, you can do so by emailing me. I will forward your emails on to him. I look forward to hearing from all of you this week. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who can send a tax-deductible contribution of $36 or more to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media to help support our programming. Tax-deductible checks may be made out to GEM and mailed to GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. Please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD, and we thank you for your kind support.